As of right now, basically the news has been covering so much involving the murder of Tyre Nichols, but now they're starting to dig a little bit deeper into the backgrounds of the officers that were involved with him. But when it comes to people in particular of the five, these two right here come up the most. And what I'm going to do is this is going to be a 2-for-1 special, because it's like, why do separate videos when I can knock them out in just one fell swoop? And their names are Taddarius Bean, and that's the one on the left. And the one on the right, his name is Demetrius Haley. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on each of their stories separately within one video. So let's start with Taddarius Bean. And let me just put it like this. When it comes to both of them, they're going to use this. I have a feeling that when this goes to trial, they're going to use this against them to further prove how violent they were, or the violent tendencies that they have, especially with these two right here. But it says Tadarius Bean, former Memphis police officer involved in Tyre Nichols' killing, was president of a scandal-scarred fraternity. One of the 5 former Memphis police officers charged with the murder and the deadly beating of Tyre Nichols was the president of a fraternity with several recent scandals at its chapters. Tadarius Bean, age 24, was the president of the Omega Psi Phi's Eta Zeta chapter at the University of Mississippi, according to his LinkedIn page. The fraternity was founded in 1911 at Howard University in Washington, D.C., a historically black college. It claims to be on the front line, leveraging its power, influence, and more than 100 years of commitment to the uplift of our people and our communities, according to Omega's website. But the fraternity and its members, however, have been involved in several troubling incidents in recent years. In 2019, Omega's chapter at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, was suspended over a slew of disturbing incidents involving pledges or people looking to join the group, including at least one hospitalization, the Virginian Pilot reported. Potential newcomers were beaten, and some were forced to chug hot sauce or pour it down their pants to simulate a sexually transmitted disease. In 2018, a 45-year-old man looking to join an Omega Psi Phi chapter in Brooklyn had his buttocks and testicles paddled between 150 to 200 times as part of a twisted, welcoming ritual, resulting in 2 of the fraternity's members being charged with assault and hazing. Disturbing body cam footage released Friday shows Nichols being beaten, pepper sprayed, and tasered by the cops during a traffic stop on January 7th. The 29-year-old, a FedEx worker and father of a 4-year-old boy, died 3 days later in the hospital. 5 of the officers, including Bean, have been charged with aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression, in addition to second-degree murder. The officers were sprung from the Shelby County Jail Friday after each posted between $250,000 to $350,000 bail. Omega Psi Phi did not immediately respond to a request for comment. That was some very disturbing details mentioned right there, especially that part about the hot sauce. That's crazy. And of course, the paddling part. They're going to lean into that. Even if he wasn't over the chapters that was involved with this, they're going to look now, because of this, now they're going to look more into the organization itself because of this happening right here. Because when you think of the paddling part that they mentioned, the hazing and all types of stuff like that, listen, if you went to an HBCU, you know. If you know, you know. Shoot, if you went to a PWI, if you know, you know. I'm just put it like that. If you were familiar with, fraternities and even sororities, I'll just leave that right there where it is. It's not so much of a secret that stuff actually happens, but it's real secret in the terms of you don't know what really goes down unless it gets exposed in the way that this just did. Then it might actually surprise you and shock you with some of the stuff that you hear. But they're going to use that against him and say that, oh, because this is what he was a part of, as far as fraternity goes when he was an undergrad, then that means that he most likely tried to use the same tactics that he used on his pledges with Tyre Nichols. Now, mind you, this guy's only 24 years old. If he went to college at the age of 18 and went 4 years, that means he graduated 2 years ago, which means he's fresh out of college. Well, not fresh out of college, but a recent graduate. He's 2 years removed. So that means he graduated at 2021, somewhere around that range moment right there. Unless he turns 25 this year, then he most likely graduated in 2020. But either way, they're going to dig as far as they can, and they're going to use this. I have the biggest, strongest inkling that they're going to use what I just read to you against him. Now on to the next one, who is Demetrius Haley. Now this one right here is, if you thought what was going on with Tadarius being was something, Demetrius Haley, with his situation, he was actually real hands-on with this one. So Demetrius Haley says he was it was a inmate that was in there that was brutally assaulted by this guy right here, and I believe it was another officer involved. They said man who was allegedly assaulted in 2015 by ex-officer in Tyre Nichols case speaks out. So now this person is speaking out about the brutalization that he endured at the hands of him. One of the 5 former Memphis police officers accused in the fatal beating of Tyre Nichols took part in beating an inmate nearly 8 years ago, according to the man who made the accusation in a 2016 lawsuit. Tadarius, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce his name, Sledge, was serving a 3-year sentence for aggravated assault in 2015 when 2 correction officers beat him because he had a contraband cell phone. He said in an exclusive interview Wednesday from his Memphis halfway house. One of the officers Sledge named in his complaint was Demetrius Haley, who, according to the suit, worked for the Shelby County Corrections Department at the time. The Memphis Police Department fired Haley over multiple policy violations in the January 7th traffic stop of Nichols, including use of force. Nichols died 3 days after he was pulled over. Attempts to reach Haley for comment were unsuccessful. Shelby County inmate records show Haley was in custody Thursday on multiple charges, including second-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated assault, and official misconduct. The 4 other former officers involved in the traffic stop were also in custody and had been charged with his death. Sledge, age 34, said in an interview in his suit, which was dismissed before its merits were evaluated, that Haley was one of 2 officers under the supervision of a third who came into his cell block on May 16, 2015 to search him. When they came in to do one of their little random pop-in search, they called me and 2 other guys to the shower area to be strip searched, Sledge said. They requested for me to be searched first. Sledge said he ran past the officers in his underwear in an attempt to get rid of the cell phone. He did not assault Haley or the other officers, nor did he knock into them as he ran, he said. That's when they started punching on me, he said. They picked me up and slammed my head into the sink, and I blacked out. The 2016 lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court for Western Tennessee identified Haley as one of the officers who punched Sledge and accused a third officer of slamming his head into the sink. The officers took Sledge to the prison's medical infirmary, and the next day he said he noticed significant bleeding out of his ear. The suit, which Sledge filed without a lawyer, was dismissed in 2018 after a judge found he had not properly served one of the defendants with a summons. Sledge said he was in federal custody at the time and was unable to complete the necessary paperwork on his own. Judge Thomas Anderson did not address Sledge's allegations in the March 2nd, 2018 dismissal order. The Shelby County Attorney's Office advised NBC News to file a public records request in response to a question about whether an internal investigation was ever opened into Sledge's allegations. The Public Records Department did not immediately respond to a request to send a contact provided by the county's chief litigation officer, Ely Whitwell. The attorney's office declined to comment on the lawsuit and Sledge's allegations that the beating led to partial hearing loss. Sledge was unaware that Haley was one of the officers involved in the Nichols case until he was contacted by NBC News. The news came as a shock, he said. I just hope that those officers get what they deserve and set an example for the rest of the officers, he said. And the rest of it pretty much goes more into the details about what happened with Tyre Nichols, which by this point we pretty much have everything that we can gain right now from that particular incident. But wow, this is crazy. And imagine if they would have got rid of this guy way back then, after what he did. He most likely would have been a cop right now, which means he wouldn't have been involved in what happened with Tyre Nichols. But like I said, this man has very violent tendencies, and they're going to use that against him in court. And I hope that they do. If all we know, they might call this Sledge individual in to testify against him and tell his story to a jury so they can be aware of what this guy's actually like. But all in all, I just wanted to bring this story to you, highlighting these two right here, because again, these are so far the two that they've dug into their past as far as getting information about them. If they release any more information about the other three that was involved, I'm gonna make sure to talk about them as well. But yeah, they are definitely going to use what they found on them from their past and use that against them, because both incidents with both of them, while separate, shows violent tendencies there. And when you look at what happened with Tyre Nichols and how they handled that situation, or not handled it properly, I should say, it's going to line right up and say that these guys have a history of violence and torture and injury that unfortunately in this case went so far and led to a murder.